from what we did. Oh, okay. Yeah. So I hope you are able to catch up. I hope nobody was left behind. I think I have accepted the recording. Okay, so let me share my screen.
Hello, Stella. I can't hear you, or it's on my side only.
Okay, so yeah, so I'm saying I gave an assignment in the last class. I will add onto that, and then you shall submit it together with what I will do today. So what I will give today, it will be a lot on data visualization, being able to just clean the data. It will be a lot, to be honest, since I have never given an assignment, so it will be a little bit heavy. So I would just advise you to make time for it over the weekend and have that done. You will submit it as, I prefer if you submit it as, okay, if I give a question on a plot, once you run that plot, screenshot that plot and then attach it to your document. So I would advise you to send them as Google Document links. If you don't know how to do that, you can just make sure you drop that in the chat section so that before the class ends, I can be able to just make sure I highlight that so that now you can just send them to me via the Google doc list, and then make sure you just put your name so that we can just create a database and we can just be able to make sure that we follow through with those who would have done that assignment. But moving forward, I'll be giving an assignment after every class because now we'll be getting deep into that. Okay. So in the last class, we left off, created a new project, and inside it, we opened an R Markdown file. So we started off with this MPG data frame. So I will just run that again. Yeah, so this one is a table. So it just shows a summary of that database. And we were also able to see, if you just want to know more about the database, you can click question mark MPG, and then if I just run that, it should show me more information here. Okay, I don't know what is happening, but for you it should work. It was also working for mine. I don't know why. Sometimes these things act up on me. Okay. So yeah, you just be able to learn more about that database. So go ahead and install. We're going to be using ggplot. So we shall be using the ggplot2 to create the ggplot. So that's the package, and we shall now ggplot is the function that we shall be using. So just go ahead and install the packages. So this is the format you're going to write that. Um, just click say no, and then it will install that package. You will see it in the terminal, guide you about that installation. So let me just reduce this since it's not really needed right now. So yeah, it will show you that it has installed everything. Just do that as well. The command is install.packages and then ggplot. So I hope you guys can see that. And then now let us load up that library, or that package. So, or that library. Okay, so let us load it up. So just say library packages, library ggplot2, since that's the name of our package. I think it had already done that, but just do that. Just do that. Ensure, sorry, these are the commands. Those are the commands. Let me just grab a certain book I use. Okay, so I hope for all of you, you have been able to do that. That's not such a difficult command. So we are going to plot the MPG. So run this code to display, to put okay, these are the like short names that the data has used. If you remember, I can just run the package again, not the package, the data. Yeah, if you look at this data, we have these values at the top. So we have the manufacturer's name, we have the model name. So this is about cars. This data set was about cars. So we now have this disp means stands for engine displacement in liters. And then we have the year, which is the year of manufacture of the car. And then this CYL stands for the number of cylinders. And then we have trans, which stands for type of transmission. And then we have the DRV, which is the type of drivetrain. So where you have F, that's front wheel drive. We have R. We're going to see. You can also just type this view MPG. So it will now display as a data set. Right now it's displaying as a table, just a summarized version. Okay, so you can see it as comma here where we have the source panel. So you have now the manufacturer, the model, the display, the year, the CYL standing for number of cylinders. I mean, this is not the display, this is displacement, engine displacement in liters. And then we have the trans, which stands for type of transmission. And then we have the DRV, which is standing for the type of drivetrain. So where the F stands for the front wheel drive, 4 stands for a 4-wheel drive. The R, as you can see there, it stands for a rear wheel drive. And then now we have those 3, the 4, the R, and the F. And then we have CTY, which stands for city miles per gallon. And then we have the WHY, which stands for highway miles per gallon. And then we have the FL, which stands for fuel type. And then I don't know if this is an FL or an F1. I think it's FL. And then class, which stands for the type of car. So there's the compact, so mid-size to seater SUV, mid-size minivan, pickup. You can see that. So that is that. So you to just know more about it, you should be able to click on !MPG and it should work. I don't know why. For me, it just keeps telling me internal server error. So, but from your end, it should definitely work. So for me, it just gets moody, I guess. Yeah, so we have now, we now want to plot this in a ggplot. We want to plot this in a ggplot. So first I'm just going to create an empty graph, and that is created using the ggplot data mpg. So if I just run this, if I highlight this here, and then I put it here, if I run that part, okay, for me, okay, let me make this a comment. Let me make this a comment first so that it stops running it. Okay, so let me just run this again because I just want to show you it. Yeah, so you can see here in the plot section, let me just maximize that. You can see it's just, for now, it's just an empty plot, no content in it. So let us add some content into that. Let us add some content into that. And how do we do that? So I'm just going to undo what I did. Okay, so that is not needed now. So now you'll have the GG data MPG to just plot that empty graph. And then we are now going to introduce a function geom_point that adds a layer of points to our plot. So it will add a layer of points to this plot, and then which creates a scatter plot. So geom_points, from the link I sent you after we left class, I hope you are able to just see the different ways the geom can be implemented. So for the geom_point, it creates a scatter plot. So each geom function in ggplot2 takes a mapping argument. This defines how variables in your dataset are mapped to visual properties. The mapping argument is always paired with AES, which stands for aesthetics. And the X and Y arguments of the aesthetics function specify which variables to mark to the X and Y axis, that is respectively. So if I run this now, so for my case, I'm mapping, not the geom_point, I want to create a scatter plot, and I want to map, and the aesthetics should be that in the X axis, we should have the engine displacements in liters, and the Y, we should have the highway miles per gallon. So I hope once you did the question mark MPG, you are just able to learn more about that data. It's not that I have crammed it, I actually just had to write it down. So you can see that is our scatter plot. Yeah, so let us learn more. And from this scatter plot, okay, so we have the highway miles per gallon, and here we have the engine displacement in liters. So for this side of the x-axis where we have the 7, and we have our highway miles per gallon being roughly 25, you can see for 25 miles per gallon, this engine is displaying this engine is displaying at 7 liters. So believe that's a little bit high. Probably I imagine probably it's like a fast car or something. For those who are conversant with cars. And then for something which, for this end of our graph, we can see we have roughly like 1.8, and this is after the highway miles per gallon is roughly, I believe that's around 45, and this one is 40, so, or 44, since it hasn't touched that axis. So we can see that this seems to be a car that, with long distances, the engine displacement, the engine oil displacement is a little bit low. So I'm imagining this is definitely not a fast car. So in my mind, I imagine cars like Lamborghinis, and they can't be consuming, not just in my mind, I think realistically, they can't be consuming the same way. Probably an SUV would do. I don't think that's possible. So I believe that's the analysis we can get just from that. Okay, so I hope you guys have been able to do that. If you encounter an error, remember to communicate. And if you have a question, you can drop it on the chat section, or you can just unmute yourself and ask. Okay, so the conclusion from this scatter plot is that the plot shows a negative relationship between engine size, engine, and that is display where is the engine displacement in liters, and then the fuel efficiency, where the highway miles per gallon, that is cars with big engines use more fuel. And I think that is something that we have seen. So this is the exercise I believe I gave. That's the exercise I gave. So I can just copy paste it in case you missed it. And I will now add into that. But the assignments I will send um, after the class, right after the class, you will have it. So let me just post this. Just in case you missed it, you can get it now. So the hashtags were just comments, so ignore them while you're looking into that. Okay, so let us move on. So let us now get deeper into aesthetics mappings, the aesthetics function like we have just seen. So an aesthetic is a visual property of the object in your plot. Aesthetics include things like size, the shape, and the color of your points. You can convey information about your data by mapping the aesthetics in your plot to the variables in your data set. So let us add some colors to the points of, okay, let us map some colors of your points to the class variable to reveal the class of each car. So for in this case, we really don't know where the types of car. Remember, for our data set, we have class represents the type of car. So where do we have the class? Yeah, you can see we have the compact, we have the SUV, the pickup, subcompact, mid-size. Yeah, so it's a lot of content. So from our plot, we really can't be able to know which is which. So how do we sort that out? Somebody has a question? I'd like somebody has unmuted themselves. Okay. So how do we plot that? So we are going to introduce the ggplot function, and then the geom point mappings is equals to aesthetics, where x is equals to display, not to display, engine displacement in liters, and y is equals to highway miles per gallon. And then now the color will represent each class. So if I just do that, I run this code. Let me just maximize on this. Yeah. So we can be able to see which car is giving us what. So what I highlighted before is a two-seater. So I feel like this is the category of fast cars. And then now we have also an SUV there. So I was actually wrong. The SUVs also have a little bit of high displacement um, in the engine. So what do we have here? This is the subcompacts, a little bit purple, the subcompact. So brown is the compact. What about green? Green is the mid-size. Mid-size, and then where are our minivans? So minivans also start from here, roughly here, and we see most of them here. So green is the mid-size, okay? So you can see it's easier now to analyze our data set and also with that specific class, and we can it automatically gives us a legend. This is just a legend to give us more information. Okay, so any question up to there? Any question? I hope you guys have been able to do that.
You're so fast.
I'm fast. Okay.
Yeah.
So where haven't you understood? Where haven't you understood? Okay, so
I was still the ggplot, not yet construct.
okay, so we just looked at our data frame using the ggplot2 MPG. This one will just display a table. So if I run that, so you'll just see a table, though it's automatically now. So this is the table, you can see, and it gives us a summarized version to just fit our screen at this point. So it gives us up to 10 rows and tells us that there are 227 more rows and 2 more variables that have not been displayed. You can see this doesn't show us the class or the FL is fuel type. So I did the view MPG to just be able to view my data set. And with that, this is what I got. So I'm able to analyze my data set more and just understand more what the data set is about. So that is what the view MPG does
Uh,
for you.
I was finding an error in just running the view
Mm-hmm.
because they been told that they can't find the function.
Okay, how have you
What
saved your
could be the
file?
problem?
How have you saved your file? How have you saved your file? Like, is
I've
it
not yet.
oh yeah, so you
Okay.
see up go okay, you're already on this interface on your R Studio, right? Something like this.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so click here, file. At the top you'll see file, and
Okay.
then go to save as. Save as.
Yes.
Save as, and then you can give it a name. It can be for mine is visual.rmd. The most important thing is the .rmd, the .rmd, the R markdown.
Okay.
So you can give it whichever name, but make sure it has an extension of .rmd, and then it should be able to save that file. So
Thank you.
you're not supposed to write the notes. These are just notes to guide you and also to guide me as I'm guiding you on what we are doing. So you're just supposed to type, and the notes are in hashtags. So you're supposed to just pick the black parts. Pick the black parts. So for your case, you should not run. After that, you should not type ggplot2, put two full colons mpg to display this data set. Is called mpg. mpg. So I hope you've been able to catch up with us. And then when you do the view, you should not be able to see our data set. Has that happened?
Yes,
Anybody
thank
else? Okay,
you.
so anybody else? Anybody else? So also remember to install these packages. So the question mark MPG will just give you, for me, I don't know why mine has refused to work all of a sudden. Okay, so it will come here, it will give you more information about this data frame. So if for you, I believe it will work, question mark .mpg. And then you should now make sure you install these packages. So let me just copy paste this on the chat section so you can just have it. So to get that ggplot function, we are needed to use the package ggplot2. So, and then now we load it up by saying library ggplot2. After that, we now display our data set. So I use the geom point to show us a scatter plot. And that is what we had. So because I'm in this data set, as you can see, we really can't know which type of car is giving us which type of conclusion. Guys, I'll be right back. Okay, so did anybody have a question? I'm sorry about that. Did anybody have a question? Okay, great. So we could see for this case, we really could not be able to know which type of car is giving us which conclusion. So, and make sure you just say ggplot data. Somebody with a question? Somebody is unmuted. Is there somebody who has a question? Okay, so we used the GM point to give us a scatter plot. And then mapping is equals to aesthetics X. What do you want to display on the X intercept, and what do you want to display on the Y axis? Sorry, yeah, not intercept, axis. So that is what happened. So the DISP stands for engine displacement in liters, and the HWY stands for highway miles per gallon. So with that now, to be able to know what is doing what, I now came ahead and added color, and I said that should represent the class so that we can know which class is giving us which type of point. And in the data set, we have a class. We have a class column, this. So I would just want to know what is giving me what. So that is what has happened. And yeah, we were able to see that. So let me just also copy paste this command just in case. Okay. So to map an aesthetic to a variable, associate name of the aesthetic to the name of the variable inside the so whatever you want to give, associate the name of the variable inside the S. So in our case, it was color is equals to class. So ggplot2 will automatically assign a unique value of the aesthetic. So for this case, ggplot, we didn't tell it which color to give the car, the SUV, the pickup, or such. It automatically did that for us and gave it specific colors. So to each unique value of the variable, a process known as scaling. So assigning that those different colors to each different type of car or class of car, that is known scaling. So ggplot2 will also add a legend that explains which levels um, correspond to which values. So it adds to us and it tells us, okay, so what is, which one is a two-seater, which one is a compact, which one is a mid-size, which one is a minivan, and we can see that. So this is called a legend. This is called a legend. So for this part, we have mapped the class. So, but we could have mapped class to the size in the same way. So how do we do that? How do we do that? We come ahead and say instead of color now, you see now here we have color. So we can say size is equals to class. Let us see what we get from that when you do that. So instead of color here, we put size. That's the difference. So if I run that, you can see what is happening. Let me just increase this. Just give it a minute. Okay. So though it really doesn't look as good as the color because of overlapping and everything, you can see that it tells us whatever has this size is a two-seater, this size is a compact, this size is a mid-size, and the biggest is the SUV. So however, you can see that it's really hard to analyze this data. You really wouldn't know which one is compact, which one is SUV. So, and you can see it also gives us a warning message. Using the size for discrete variable is not advised. So we get that warning because mapping of an ordered variable class to an ordered aesthetic size is not a good idea. Of course, this is not ordered. It's not something that is numbered. It's just a value that this is a two-seater, or yeah, it's not something which has been categorized to numbers. They are characters, and even as you can see here, the class, these are characters. They are not numbers. So that's why it's a little bit hard, and it's not advisable for you to use size to reference such a value like class. Any question up to there? Or anybody who hasn't experienced an error? Any question? Okay. We could have mapped class to the alpha aesthetics, which controls the transparency of the point. So this is just also another way of seeing, can we be able to also use what we call an alpha? And this will be which will affect the transparency of each point. So let us run that and see and understand exactly what we mean when we say, or when we speak of transparency. So if you look at this code, so it's just where I used to have color is equals to class. Now I'm having alpha, the one above we had size, and we saw that's not a good idea. So now this is alpha now to just represent the different transparency of each point. So you can see the two-seater has been represented with a very faint point, or it's a little bit transparent than the SUV. So as much as this is another way, it might confuse you when you get into analyzing the SUV, the subcompact, and the pickup. which is which? To be honest, I'm confused. So it's also not really a good way. And you can even see in the console, we get an error or a warning message. Using alpha for discrete variable is not advised. So same case as when we use size. Okay, we can also use the shape aesthetics, which controls the shape of the point. So it prints different points with different shapes. So let us first run it. We see how that will be displayed. So let me just increase this. Just give it a minute. Okay. So you can see how that looks like. So I don't know if this is, I don't know what this is. I don't know if it's a star, which is a little bit stronger or something. But for that, that's a two-seater. We have that being a compact. We have that square being a mid-size, plus being a minivan, whatever that is, being a pickup, and then a star being a subcompact. SUV, no, it's, you can't see, it has not been given a value. It has not been given a value. So also, that's really not a good way of analyzing that data. You can imagine how for color it was so easy for us, it's so straightforward. This looks a little bit confusing. And also one thing we should notice that SUV has not been highlighted in this data set, has not been represented. So it has not really done us justice to our data set. So you can see it comes ahead and gives us a warning. What's the warning this time? The shape palette can deal with a maximum of 6 discrete values. So you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So this one was not represented because it has only 6 discrete values. Because more than 6 becomes difficult to discriminate, you have 7, we have 7. Consider specifying shapes manually if you must have them. And then it also gives us a second warning that it has removed 62 rows containing missing values in the geom point. So this has not really extensively analyzed our data or represented our data as we would have wanted to. So I go ahead and just give an explanation. I said that the ggplot2 will only use 6 shapes at a time. By default, additional groups will go unplotted when you use the shape aesthetics, that's the missing SUVs. And then ggplot selects a reasonable scale to use with aesthetics, and it constructs a legend that explains the mapping between levels and values. So you can see the legend. And then it is possible to set the aesthetics property on your geom manually. For example, we can make all the points in our plot blue. So let us see how that will happen. So here we can just, instead of saying color should be class, I can now specify that I want the color to be blue for all of them. So let us see how that will be represented. So you can see that how that is represented now. The whole chart has only blue points. So that's also is not really effective in our data representation. I hope, do we have a question so far? So I'm just showing you the different ways the aesthetics can be used, and probably why we haven't used it in this case, or just for you to just know. I hope that is understandable. So from the plot, we note that the color doesn't convey information about a variable, but only changes the appearance of the plot, which is very true. To set an aesthetic manually, set the aesthetics by name as an argument in your geom function. That is, goes in outside the aesthetic. So you notice for this, if you're setting it manually, if you notice for this, what we had before here, everything was inside this bracket, the aesthetics bracket, and then it was now close to the geom point. For this, where we do this manually, is that? Yeah, you can see that now we the aesthetics has been closed, and then comma, now color is equals to blue. So it is outside the aesthetic function. You'll need to pick a level that makes sense for that aesthetic. The name color is as a character string, and the size of the point in the shape of the point and as a number. Okay, so what they're saying is, you see, for this color is because you're going to put it as a string. Of course, you can't have color 1, 2, 3. There's no color like that. So probably unless you're using hexadecimal points, and then but you're still going to have to put them as a string. So remember, whenever you put as the quotation mark, this becomes a string. And then if you decide to say size, it should be in millimeters of that size. And then the shape of a point as a number. So I had this link to represent the shape. You know, sometimes you might want to represent the shape yourself. So how do I do that? Control C. So let me just make sure it's working. Okay. Okay. So I guess I will have to, oh, let me remove this hashtag. Hashtag. Let me now copy paste it. Hope there's no other hashtag. Okay. Yeah, so these are, so I'll just share this link with you. So these are the numbers which represent the shape. So 8 represents the star. We have this diamond being represented with a 9. This circle with an X is 13. So circle solid black 16. Circle with a solid red is 21. So those are what they mean when they say use that. So that is the link to that information. Okay, so that is now what you'll do. So the shape of the point, so you're just going to write shape and then give the number, and then it will represent that as a number. So remember, when you're doing that manually, it should be outside the aesthetics, put a comma and specify whatever you want. Yeah, so that is that. So note, when creating ggplot2 graphics is to put the plus in the, okay, okay. So be aware where you're putting this plus sign. You see this plus sign? Make sure you don't put it here at the beginning of this statement. It should be at the end of this first statement. So that's just the programming rule for that, or the syntax rule for that. So let us, any question up to there? Any question? Any question up to that point? Okay, so there are things we called facets. And as done above, we have seen that one way of adding additional variables is with aesthetics that we have seen using the AES function. So another way particularly useful for categorical variables is to split your plot into facets, subplots that each display one subset of data. So to facet your plot in a single variable, use facet wrap _ wrap function The first argument of the facet underscore wrap should be a formula, which you create with that curly line, followed by a variable name. Here, formula is the name of the data structure in R, not a synonym for equation. So yeah, just an explanation. That's that formula. Yeah, so it's the name of the data structure. The variable that you pass to facet wrap underscore wrap function should be discrete. So let us do that. So we can have this ggplot data is equals to mpg plus geom point. So we are still creating a scatter plot. Mapping is equals to aesthetics, where x we have the engine displacement in line in liters. Y is displaying the highway miles per gallon plus facet wrap, where we put that curly brackets, and then so we are displaying the class, and the end row is equals to 2. So let us first run it, and then we will explain that code more. So you can see what has happened. You can see what has happened. Let's just give it a minute to display well. Okay. So we now have two-seater, compact, mid-size, minivan, pickup, subcompact, SUV. End rows, there are 2 rows. You can see that. So you can be able to easily analyze the data. So you remember two-seater had around like 25 with the highway miles per gallon, where this was engine displacement in liters. When it was 7, the highway miles per gallon was around 25. So for the pickup, when it's 6, the highway miles per gallon is around 10. And then for the subcompact, when it's around 5.5, the highway miles per gallon is 20. So you're able to just see for each and every class or type of car. Question? Question? So I can just also paste this in the chat section. Okay, so that is that. So be aware of where I have put, I am joining this, the plus sign. Be aware it's at the end, not at the beginning. That will cause an error. So to facet your plot on the combination of 2 variables, add face grid to your plot. The first argument of facet grid, sorry, not face grid, facet grid is also a formula. So remember, formula here is just the name of that variable that you want to be displayed. So for ours was class, so it's not a mathematical formula. This time the formula should contain 2 variable names separated with that curved or curly line. So let us see what they mean exactly. So for this case, we plot a ggplot, and then the geom point mapping, where we have the aesthetics, where in the X we have the engine displacement in liters, and this one is highway miles per gallon, plus the facet grid, where we are going to have the DRV with the type of drive. Is it a front wheel drive? Is it a rear wheel drive? Is it a 4-wheel drive? And then we have CYL standing for number of cylinders. So let us run this. Let us run this. You see how our output will look like. So yeah, you can see how that looks like. So remember, it's the RV type of drivetrain. Okay, let me just make sure you're together. That's not this one. This one. So the facet grid is the RV by number of cylinders. So the DRV is where we have this one 4 FR, and then the number of cylinders are 4, 5, 6, 8. And then the X and the Y axis, we have those values. the engine displacement in liters in the x-axis, and the highway miles per gallon. Okay, so we have that now. So if I just give it a minute to render, so you're able to see how that is looking like. So for the four-wheel drive, you're able to see most of them are displaying with roughly, let's say, around 2.8. Okay, 2.8. We have a displacement of like 20 miles per gallon. And that's, so so this is representing number of cylinders, 4 cylinders, and this is representing a four-wheel drive. So it's a four-wheel drive with four-wheel drive, four-wheel drive with 4 cylinders. So these are its values. And if it has 5 cylinders, and this is front wheel. F stands for front wheel. So these are the values. If it has 8 cylinders, and it's a rear wheel drive. So these are its values or visualization of data. So you can see we can be able to analyze more content with that. So we can see if it's a five cylinders, four wheel. We basically do not have cars for that in our data set. The same for 5 cylinders, rear wheel. We only have for 5 cylinders and their front wheel. Okay, question. So let me also share that code. Is there anybody with a question? Guys, I want to be asked questions. Let me just get that line of code. Or I ask the questions. Okay. Here, so let me just give you this. Or I did, no. Okay, so let us proceed with this. If there's no question, we can proceed with this. Or I think at this point, I would like one of you to just share your screen. We see if you have that output. I'd like one of you to just share your screen. So if yours has worked, can you just share your screen before we move on? Because the next part is a topic, geometric objects. I want to leave people too behind. So can we have one of you share your screen? Let me stop sharing mine. Or I call out people. Alvin, how is your code coming along? Andrew, Charles, David Warui, David Kimani, Derek Kuria. How is your code coming along? Elizabeth, Evans, Ivan. Can just give you some minutes to do what you have done. And then for whoever works, just share your screen. I have Marilyn, Joshua, Richard, Wambua, Ruto, Serafina, Adam, Victor Mutai, so, and Abubakar Suleiman. So just do those codes. They're in the chat section. Do them. Let me give you a few minutes. Do them. It's 9. I think I can give you till 9:10, and then we can have one of you just share your screen up to that point before we move on. So the codes are in the chat section. Elizabeth, mine is working. Just please explain again what we are analyzing in the code. So we are visualizing the code. So at this point, I'm just showing the different ways you can visualize that data. That's basically what I'm showing, what to look out for when you're visualizing the data, which parameters you can use. That's basically what I'm guiding you. But basically, if you're not understanding the values that they're using in the code, display, okay, it's not display, the DISPL, the CYL, the trans, remember you can put a question mark, MPG, and it will give you more information on that. So I can now be able to see, so you can see that even in my code like this one. So let me just share my screen. Yes, somebody has unmuted themselves. Okay, I heard that somebody had unmuted themselves. So you see now for this case, I can be able to analyze that. I can be able to analyze that. First, remember for this case, on this side, we put the number of cylinders. On this side, we were able to put the type of drivetrain. So this, if it's a 4, that means it's a 4-wheel drive. F means it's a front-wheel drive, and R is a rear-wheel drive. And these are the number of cylinders. So I can be able to know if a car has 8 cylinders and it's front-wheel drive, the displacement, not the displacement, yeah, the engine displacement in liters, when it's around, I think it's around 5.25. The highway displacement miles, or the highway miles per gallon, will be roughly, so I will come here and this will be roughly 25 miles per gallon. So I can be able to see that this car, it's almost in the middle, that it will use more engine oil to display, to move a certain distance. So for my case is 25 miles per gallon, or 25 miles, that is. So I can come here again and have now, if it's a 5, it has 5 cylinders, and it's okay, let us take something like a 4-cylinder, and it's a 4-wheel drive. So as much as this has a lot of overlapping, we can be able to see if it has if that car has the engine displacement is 2 liters, the miles per gallon is around 2.8 there. So for this case, that's what we have been able to analyze from our data set. From where we had before, so the variables you're using is what is guiding you on what exactly you're analyzing. So I'm just guiding you on how to pick those variables and how to analyze that data. So for example, let me just go back to the one we did with the color is equals to class, this. So if I run this, you can see we are able to analyze that. Let's just render. Okay. if you can able to see that the class are divided, I can know these ones are two-seater, these ones are compact, this is a mid-size, this is a minivan, pickup, subcontact, compact, USV. So SUV, not USB, SUV. So we know that if the engine displacement is around 7, the miles in the highway will be around 2.8, and we're able to get the conclusion that this is a car probably that uses a lot of engine oil to just run or to go a small distance. So that means the engine has to be pretty big for that car and probably more powerful. I'm not that into cars, but I can just imagine. And since you can see this is a two-seater, so I'm imagining this is where the classes of Ferraris and Lamborghinis lie. So yeah, so that's what we are analyzing, Elizabeth. And Elizabeth, can you be able to share your screen so that just others or we can also be able to just see what you have accomplished? You can just run one of the codes. So I hope that is understandable. Anybody else with a question? Anybody else with a question? Or Elizabeth was dropped off of the meeting. Let me just... Did she drop off by mistake? Oh, she's still here. So Elizabeth, are you going to be able to share your screen? Okay. Is there anybody else theirs has worked? Anybody else who their code has worked? Okay, so Elizabeth has requested we give her a minute. She shares her screen. Or is there anybody else with a question? Anybody else with a question? So yeah, Elizabeth, we can see your screen. So yeah, I can see that the facet has worked, the facet grid. So have you been able to understand that? Can you talk? Can you be able to talk? Have you been able to understand that? Oh, it can't find your microphone. So probably you have muted your, I don't know. But yeah, you can just look into that. But it's okay, we have been able to see the screen. So big up for being able to catch up. Is there anybody else? So anybody with a question or anything? Error? Okay. So I believe we can move on. Yeah, non-test one. If there's no question, I believe we can be able to move on. Okay. Okay, so let me just get to where we were. Okay, so we are going to look into what we call geometric objects. So a geom is a geometric object that a plot uses to represent data. People often describe plots by the type of geom that the plot uses. For example, bar charts use bar geoms, line charts use line geoms, box plots use box plot geoms, and so on. To change the geom in your plot, change the geom function that you add to your ggplot function. So for example, we have this. So ggplot data is equals to mpg plus geom point. So this is a scatter plot. Mapping is equals to aesthetics x. So this is what you have just been using. So that's just that, what you have been using. So now I will change from geom point to geom smooth. Let us see what it will show us now. Yeah, so you can see how that data set looks like. I mean, how that plot and how that data set has been represented now as a smooth line. So So every geom function in ggplot2, so remember the package is ggplot2 and also the library, takes a mapping argument. However, not every aesthetics works with every geom. You could set the shape of a point, but you couldn't set the shape of a line. On the other hand, you could set the line type of the line. Geom smooth will draw a different line with a different line type for each unique value of the variable that you map into the line type. So remember, when we were using the scatter plot, you were able to see, and especially when we put color as class, we're able to see the different class of represented in our plot. For this is a little bit hard to know which class is being represented. So what can we do to change that? We can have a line type representing a different type of value. So for here, I came ahead and said ggplot data is equals to mpg, geom smooth mapping is equals to aesthetics, x is equals to this, which is engine displacement in liters, y, which is the highway miles per gallon, line type is equals to the RV. So line type is where it's differentiating with the type of drivetrain. Is it a front wheel, a rear wheel, or a four-wheel drive? So let us run that code. So you can see what has happened. Let me just maximize that. So you can see that we have the smooth being the four-wheel drive, the dotted small spaces being that's the front wheel drive, and I think this is which it has more is it with length into it is a rear wheel drive. So that is how so this is the front wheel drive, rear wheel drive, and this is our four-wheel drive. So that's how it has analyzed that data. So for the four-wheel drives, this is their curve, their line. For the rear wheel, this is their line. And for the front wheel, this is their line. I hope that is clear and you can be able to see that. And you can be able now to analyze that data depending based on the drive or the type of drivetrain. Question? Let me just post that code. Question up to that point. So I can be able to see the differences based on that. Is that okay? It is. no, line type, where I use the line type. Okay, so here it is. So let me just share that code with you. So please, if you have a question, just drop it in the chat section. If you're experiencing an error, you can drop it or unmute yourself. You're free to do either. So let us just break down that code. The geom smooth separates the cars into 3 lines based on their drive value, their drive terrain, which describes a car drive terrain. So DRV, that's how the data set says the DRV describes the car drive terrain. To learn more about single geom, use question mark geom smooth. So .ggplot2 provides 40 geoms. So here's a link. So let me also share this link. Let me ensure that there's no, it's working before I share it with you. So you can use that question mark in the help section, this part, to just be able to see it from your end. Question mark geom underscore smooth dot ggplot2. So I will also share this link. Let us see what that link is doing for us first. So yeah, so these are the ggplot2 extensions. I hope you guys can be able to see that. So I think it's still loading. Let's give it a minute. Let me be sharing with you while it's loading. So yeah, so you can see what is happening. We have the GG animate. I believe this is very helpful probably in like, for me, I would use this in like biological data or anything of that sort. So you can see how it looks. It's just animated and it's able to just show where the data set is navigating. And you know, this is it's easier for you to, you can be able to see is the data going downwards, is it going upwards? What is the linear relationship with that? We also have the theme. We have the GG stat plot, the ESC, I can't read that. Yeah, but you can see it. And then we have the GG graphs. So we have the GG force, GG repel, the HRBR themes. So there are many. These are things you can just look into and learn how they're used, you know, the cow plot, the GG alt, the GG IRAF, GG text, improved text rendering support. Beeswarm creates Beeswarm plus which avoids overlapping data points. And that is a problem we have seen with our current data sets and what we have done. There's a lot of overlapping. The GGSCI, ggplot color palettes inspired by scientific journals and science fiction TV shows. The power of television. So you can see how that is representing the data. We have the ggalley adding several functions to reduce complexity of combining geometric objects with transformed data. So GG45, yeah, so there are many, So use that link. You can even see this GG ridges. I think that can be used to analyze probably a terrain. And we are even just today we are going to see how to analyze a map. So point density, you can see how that looks. So yeah, the time series. There's so many new scale. So tap into that. Just go ahead and see how that is looking like. Yeah, so there's so many. So as you can see. they say there are how many 82 registered extensions available to explore. So you have 82 extensions ready for you to explore. So that is that. So let us move on. Do we have a question? So we also have a cheat sheet for using ggplot2. So I found that this was really helpful. It can also be able to just help us out. So I will also share that with you. Let me just ensure that it is working. Yeah. So um yeah, so this is for factors, you know, forecast, tidy, Erlang. This is something we are doing right now. The planning, working with string. Okay, let me just let it upload. In the meantime, let me share with you the code. Yeah, so let me see if that is done. Yeah, so we have the tidy evaluation. This is something you're working with right now. So it's something you can look into. The planning. I believe cheat sheets really help. That these are things I don't underestimate as I'm learning even a programming language. Just having a cheat sheet to just guide me and just just get an overall. You can be able to just learn different factors of a programming language. With a cheat sheet, will you get deeper into it? Probably not, but you will just be able to be aware of different things. So this is something I will just advise you to look into. You see how to import a data transformation with deep deep layer. We have data science with Sparkly, R Markdown, Shiny cheat sheet, R Markdown. That is something we are doing a lot right now. So that is something you can just go ahead and implement. So yeah, that is something you can get your a hold of. Okay, so let us proceed. We have a few minutes, up to 10. We can use that to learn something. So to display multiple geoms in the same plot, add multiple geom functions to the ggplot. How do we do that? How do we do that? We now come and say ggplot data is equals to mpg geom point, mapping is equals to aesthetics, x is the this engine displacement in liters, y is equals to okay, no, it's keep telling me the spell check. Something. Okay. Okay, let me just, I don't know what has happened. I don't know if there's something which is loading. Okay. Okay, it has cooperated now. So that is that. So let us run this code. So geom point, and we are now attaching with the geom smooth. So they have the same values. So let us run that. Let me just give it a minute. So is there any question so far? Let me just lower this. Okay. Okay. So this is the code I'm running. So let me just run it again. Geom smooth using method. So I don't know if it hasn't. Wait. Okay. So I believe, wait, here we are. So it's, I don't know if it's still running or what exactly is happening. I believe it's running. Let me interrupt it. I'm stubborn. Okay, let me just clear my console. Let me run this again. Yeah, it is now. Okay, so you can see now we have now a scatter plot and the line in one plot, in the same plot. So that's just what I basically wanted to show you at that level, that you can that you can have multiple geoms in the same plot. So what you just have to do is just add the multiple geom functions to the ggplot. So that is what we have done. So you can see we have a scatter plot and a line plot. So this, however, introduces some duplication in our code, and this can be avoided. Okay, you avoid this type of repetition by passing this a set of mappings to ggplot. ggplot2 will treat these mappings as global mappings that apply to each geom in our graph. So you can see we have done a lot of repetition. You have come and said gg underscore point, given those values, and then come again and still given those values inside the geom mapping and the geom smooth. So we can just do just like we normally do in JavaScript. We have where we declare variables globally. So that is just what we can do also for this. So you can now come ahead and say ggplot data is equals to mpg, mapping is equals to aesthetics x is the displacement, engine displacement in liters, and this one is the highway miles per gallon, plus geom points plus geom smooth. So you see this removes this repetition of content that we had here. So we declare it globally in the ggplot, and then now just call out those functions, the geom points and the geom smooth. So if I run that, it will just give me the same code as this output or plot. But let us just run it. You can see it just gives us the same plot. Any question up to that point? So I can share that code with you. Any question up to that point, or is there anything you want me to repeat? Any question? Look, my machine has started rebelling. So any question as we handle this, I handle this delay. Okay, go back now. Okay, I hope you have gotten the code, because I don't need, it's not accepting me to navigate here. I don't know why. And if I quit, I will drop off the meeting. Okay, it has accepted. Okay. Yeah. So there's the code. Okay, so if you place mappings in the geom function, ggplot will treat them as local mappings for the layer. So just like we normally have global variables, local variables, so whenever you place it inside this geom, it becomes a local variable. But you see, for this, it's declared like a global variable when it's inside the ggplot function itself. So it will use these mappings to extend or overwrite the global mappings, just like inline CSS overrides external CSS, same thing. So this makes it possible to display different aesthetics in different layers. How can we do that? Come ahead, say ggplot have our global mapping plus geom smooth mapping is equals to aesthetics color is equals to class ggplot plus gm smooth. So let us run that code, see how that will look like. So you can see how that looks like. I hope you guys can see. Wait, did you guys see the code I had? Have you guys seen that code that displays this output? Can I get a verbal yes or written down? Have you guys seen that code? No. Okay.
Not yet.
So, okay. My machine has decided to, okay. I've said this is declared globally. I hope now you can see it. Okay. So I declared globally this ggplot data is equals to mpg, mapping is equals to aesthetics, x is equals to this and this is engine displacement in liters, and y is equals to highway miles per gallon plus geom points. Now I give some local declaration here. Mapping is equals to aesthetics, color is equals to class. Remember, just like we did before. And then now geom smooth as well. So if I run this, okay, that's what I have run and now received this output. So let me just share this code as well. So that is what is now giving me this output where I'm able to have a line plot, a scatter plot at the same time, and also have that scatter plot differentiated in class for each color. Okay, each class being differentiated by color. So, and that has now been accomplished by that goal. Though the color has been the local declaration, and of course we had the local, the global declaration for the X and the Y axis values, and then the color giving us the class and the geom smooth just drawing that line. So I hope that has been seen. Any question? I want to get into a new topic as we wind up. I don't believe we have much here. Okay, yeah, it's not that much, just a lot of explanation. Okay, any question? I want us to get into statistical transformations. Statistical transformations. Any question before I move on to that point? Any question? Okay, then can you guys say if I should proceed? Can I get a yes or a no? If you feel I should repeat something, a yes or a no? You can type it or you can say it. Can I get a yes or a no? Ladies and gentlemen, can I get a yes or a no? Drop the chat section. A yes meaning I should proceed, or a no meaning I should repeat something you have not understood. Can I get that? I'm only seeing 3 yeses. So the fourth one from Derek, so I'm seeing Ruto, Kimtai, Mandela, Abubakar, Derek. So those are only 4. We also have Charles, Ivan. Those are only Elizabeth. Those are only 7 students. Okay, Alvin. Anybody else? I thought I would expect the whole class to now say yes. That's what I'm expecting, or maybe I know I can repeat something. But those are already 7 students. Is there somebody who has not understood anything? Sarafina, those are 8 now. How many people are in this class? Okay, I believe I can move on then. Okay, so thank you guys. So let us start with statistical transformations. So this one, we're not going to use a different data set. We're not going to use the MPG anymore. We're going to use a data set called the diamonds data set. So R has its own various data sets. Before the end of the class, we shall also look at a flights data set. So for this case, we're not going to just use the diamonds data set. So let's create a bar chart using the geom bar to show that more diamonds are available with high quality cards than with low quality cards. So to display that data set in a table, remember I just use ggplot2, and then we call that data set. Our data set is called diamonds, not diamond, diamonds. So if I run that, so that is our data set. I can even come ahead and say I want to view that data set. So to do that, I'll just say view diamonds. Diamonds. So if I run that, yeah, so here it's coming up. Yeah, so that's our data set. You can see it has carrot, color, cut, color, clarity, depth, table. I don't know what tables means. Price, that I know what it means. X, Y, and Z. I don't know what that means as well. I don't know if that's the cut. I don't understand. So I think we should just go ahead. If you want to know more, just use a question tag before the word there and then type diamonds, and then you can get more explanation on each column. So now we're going to implement our ggplot. Data is equals to diamonds. And then I want to draw a geom bar mapping where the aesthetics is the X has the cut. So this is how it comes. So this one, we don't put the Y value. So the ggplot will automatically do that for us. So you can see fair, good, very good, premium, and ideal. So on the x-axis, the chart displays the cut, a variable from diamonds, just like we saw. On the y-axis, it displays the count, but count is not a variable in diamonds. It is not, by the way. Count is not, there's nowhere here. You can see there's no value, there's no variable or column called count. And so where does this count come from? Many graphs like scatter plots plot the raw values of your data set. Other graphs like bar charts calculate new values to plot. So that is what it has done. So bar charts, histograms, and frequency polygons. Remember, this used to be frequency. If you remember well, this side count, it used to be the frequency. So that is just what has happened. Bin your data and then plot bin counts, the number of points that fall in each bin. So how many are fair? That is the value. How many are good? That is the value. How many are very good? That is the value. How many are premium? That is the value. How many are ideal? Now that is the value. Mhm. So smoothers fit a model to your data, then plot predictions of the model. Box plots compute a robust summary of the distribution and then display a especially formatted box. And then the algorithm used to calculate new value or for the graph is called STAT. So there's a STAT algorithm and we shall see how we shall use it, short for statistical transformation. How does it work? So I attached this link to give us more information on that. So let me just make sure that it's working and then I share it with you. Yeah, so the geom bar begins with diamond dataset. The geom bar transforms the data with the count start, which returns a data set of cut value counts. So it counts how many are fair, how many are good, how many are very good, premium, ideal. Now the geom bar uses the transform data to build a plot. Cut is mapped in the x-axis and count is mapped in the y-axis, just like we have seen. So that's just graphical explanation. Okay, so the default value for start is count, which means that the geom bar uses start count function. You can generally use geoms and stats interchangeably. For example, you can recreate the previous plot using start count instead of geom bar. You see how we did this? We said geom bar, okay, ggplot is equals to data is equals to diamonds plus geom bar mapping is equals to aesthetics, which where x is equals to cut. So now you can come and use start count and you should achieve the same goal. Can see you just get the same thing. This works because every geom has a default start and every start has a default geom. This means that you can typically use geoms without worrying about the underlying statistical transformation. You see, before we didn't keep wondering when we were using this, or just use this because did I have, when you are using the geom bar, I didn't keep wondering about the start count. So that's just what we mean here. There are 3 different reasons you need to use the start explicitly. You might want to override the default start. So let's change start of the geom bar from count, the default, to identity. This let us map the height of the bars to raw values of the y variable. Okay, so this didn't work for me. There's something that I remember I encountered an error, not unless that error has miraculously disappeared. No, it hasn't. So data must be, okay, I will sort that out and then I will share it with you in the next class, how to implement that. So just to know, you can now come and give your own values like frequency, blah, 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 give it 1610. Now you give it fixed values and then you now display that So that is the goal I wanted. So I will sort that out and share with you. So you might want to override the default mappings from the okay, there are three ways. It's not just that one where you might want to override the default start. You might also want to override the default mapping from the transformed variables to aesthetics. For example, you might want to display a bar chart of proportion rather than count. So this one will work. So ggplot data is equals to diamonds, geom underscore bar mapping is equals to aesthetics, where x is equals to cat, y is equals to start prop, comma group is equals to 1. Let us see how that will look like. So you can see now we have y becoming prop. We have the start prop. We have yx is equals to cat, and the group is equals to 1. I believe that is the interval that is here. So, okay. You might want to draw a greater. These are just explanations. These are just explanation on how ggplot and the stats can be used interchangeably and the geom bar. So that's just what I'm doing. You might want to draw greater attention to the statistical transformation of your code. For example, you might want to use stat summary, which summarizes the y values for each unique x value, to draw attention to the summary that you're computing. So I can say ggplot data is equals to diamonds plus stat summary mapping aesthetics, x is equals to y cat, y is equals to depth, function mean is equals to mean, function max, and function median. So if I run this code, you can see how that looks like. Now we have the depth, the cut, and we are able to see another way we can display that and override the start and the default start and the geom bar. So note what happens if you map. Wait, no, it talks about that. Yeah. So ggplot provides over 20 stats for you to use. Each stat is a function, so you can get help in the usual way. So just the stat and start being, I don't know if now this is going to work. Let's see. So you should use that. Okay, still giving me internal server error. But with that, you can just be able to find the different stats. So we have 10 minutes. I think we can just try to, okay, we'll just stop where the clock gets to us. That's where I'll stop. Okay. So we have position adjustments. You can color a bar chart with either the color of aesthetics or more usefully fill. I believe fill is something we have interacted with C++. So ggplot data is equals to diamonds, geom bar mapping is equals to aesthetics, where x is equals to cat and color is equals to cat. So if I run this, you can see how that looks like. So it's each cat has its own color. Each cat comes up with its own color. And then, so I can just share that with you. That is something you can practice with. Yeah, here it is. And then you can now come ahead and have ggplot data is equals to diamonds, geom bar mapping is equals to aesthetics, x is equals to cat, fill is equals to cat. So let us see how that will look. That will be different from what we have before. This one was color is equals to cut. So this is fill is equals to cut. So how will that be different? So let me just run that. Does it run it? Or it's on the other end. Yeah, so there it is. You can see how that looks like. Cut, fair, good. No, I believe this is the first one, and then the one, this is for, I believe this is for this here. Color is equals to cut. This is the first one, and then now, wait, let me confirm. Okay, yeah, so we have that being the first one, color is equals to cut, each cut having its own color, so it doesn't look really good. And then now we have fill, so it fills now the portion. So that's just it. So I'll just copy paste that and share with you. So I know you guys might be tired, but let us just, we have 7 more minutes remaining. So we can just use that. But I'll also gauge if you guys will be able to understand. If not, I will stop. Where are we? Okay. Note what happens if you fill the aesthetics to another variable like clarity. The bars are automatically stacked. Each colored rectangle represents a combination of cut and clarity. So in our diamonds, we had clarity as a variable. So if I run this, you can see how that looks like, how that is looking like. So I don't want to really condense the information in your mind, but I feel like we can stop there for today. Let me just share that class code, but we can stop there for today. So yeah, thank you for having me. I'll share the assignments. If not today, by tomorrow morning, you should have it on the WhatsApp group. And then
I
you
have a
can just share
question.
it with me. Mm-hmm.
I have a question. Can we get your
Mm-hmm.
code like either on GitHub or like your visual.rmd file, your markdown files?
Okay, so I'll try and send them to you.
Okay.
I'll try and send them to you. Okay, thank you. Unless there's another question. Is there anybody else with a question? Okay, if there's nobody with a question, we can meet next Friday. Have a lovely week and weekend as well. No, thank you, Winnie. No problem. Bye-bye, guys.